Everybody? Yeah. Can you hear me? Okay. Yes, we are sentenced to that. So it's absolutely clear that trusted service provider. I don't know how many of you are. Okay. Yes. Try. How many of you are aware of the eIDAS term? So if you, I have a slide just to go deeper in that. There is a regulation in Europe that defines the role of a trust service provider, and it's 3 days we are talking about trust. So what is trust in a distributed ledger, or what is the difference between that trust and the trust defined by law? Is there a possible interchange between this one, which is the role of a trust anchor? We are trying to build something that have a meaning in this space, being a trust service provider, the largest one in Europe, and working in a space that is strictly ruled. So the meaning of trust is I trust you because I know you. Is a one-to-one trust, and that was the act of birth of the trust concept. If you want to scale, and this happened in history, if I have to trust someone that I never knew, if I'm not able to have an interchange of communication so quick as we can now, I need an institution that gives you a piece of paper, and then you get someone you don't know, and a third party guarantee that you are you. Is it possible to have the same kind of strength of trust in a distributed? We've seen a lot of things in these 3 days, so I will not go deeper in that anymore. But it seems that if we can build a distributed trust, there's a separation between a trust de facto, that is a mathematical trust, a trust built on cryptographic exchange, a trust built on a network of persons, and at least in Europe, a trust de jure, or by law, means when I'm called to a judge to provide proofs, are zero knowledge proof, we were talking about yesterday about that, are zero knowledge proof enough to go to a court and say, this is, I've seen a zero knowledge proof, but you have seen a zero knowledge proof, and by definition, that proof is not valid after you checked it. So how can you put that kind of trust that is substantial in the facts, and we know in the mathematics, in the validity of the legal area? So this is not easy, and at least in Europe it's important for all our customers. We provide onboarding services for financial services by guaranteeing that the data we collect from the user, from the prospect, will always be of the user. So when I, as a trust service provider, identify a person via a web identification, so web ID, I get his document, I do some check, all that set of data, and I do this because you want to open a bank account. All the set of data are not of the bank, are of the users, and if preserved, are preserved on behalf of the user by a trusted third party. That's what we do, not to issue certificate, but to be trusted in a chain between a service provider and a user. And in the old-fashioned way we issue certificate, so on smart card, we give all the trust back to the user and is in his pocket. Is this self-sovereign? Is this my data? Something like this. The principles are absolutely the one of the MyData initiative. So I act on behalf of the user. I give back to the user his credential. This is not different from a technological process and data flow point of view. But there are still a big difference between what is defined in the law and what is really in the upcoming distributed models. Yeah, the trust framework is a European regulation that basically try to define how all digital interactions between person and public institution, between person and private institution, can be trusted in different areas. So, e-identification, let's say strong authentication towards public administration, towards services. E-signature, so I do not authenticate, but I agree on the content of the document. This is the signature space. Trusted e-delivery, so qualified e-delivery means that I send a document to you, you know who am I, and I know who are you, and so on, a lot of that. So the definition of trust service provider is not a self-definition of the officer, but it's the extension of the concept of the certification authority in the eIDAS space. The trust service provider can act on different areas. And this is strictly regulated also, unfortunately, I say, from the technical point of view, how data must be done, how the device that keeps the data must be secured. And so it's also this rather difficult to understand how can be compatible with the distributed model we are seeing. So the role I was talking about are in different areas, and we on our road to exploring new trust models in terms of the sovereign foundation, and found that in that initiative, the first attention is about building a network of trust, or better, as I would say, a framework on which you can build trust networks. So different trust frameworks can be built on top of sovereign. And we try to depict how eIDAS trust framework, how information that flow between trusted service providers, users, and institution or banks or private service provider can be built on top of this kind of network that is based on the principle of distributed identity, the idea we've seen all before, that inside the concept of what a trust anchor is, and it works in a self-sovereign way. So what can we do on this? We can work on the identification part, that is not authentication part. In Zug, the first step, the kickoff of the process is I take my U-port app, I go to an office of an officer in Zug that see my documents and turn on my credentials of the U-port app. So this is the role of a trust service provider. It's difficult to think that the same model on a single platform can be in times that are not secularly ported all across Europe. You can do it in Zug. Think how can you do it in Italy, in Germany, in France, on a different scale. In the European framework, there is a legal framework that defines who can do this. So we can be enablers in porting identity in the distributed world by identifying person with the same technology, the same level of trust we do now. And we do hundreds of thousands of identification every year. Millions of identification if we consider also the one-shot one. That is interesting. So I identify a person just to perform that transaction. And then it's lost, the content. This is a limitation if you think in the traditional certificate, because the certificate expires just after it is used, and I can persist that information in the distributed ledger. I can persist information in a verifiable credential, and can then use again during the life. We have a playground. That's it. We're set up with at the moment Tossa wallet, and our partner are working in app implementation, so we're working. And this can be the playground to work on the interconnection, also technological interconnection between our world and the world of distributed identity. We started with that one, started with that concept, and we began trying to find someone that was interested in putting these two worlds together. We have now a POC running in a test environment about company identity. Something like the British Columbia case, I think you already know about it, with a different kickoff. The use case is about supplier onboarding. When I, as a big company, we are under NDA, so I cannot put the logo. I hoped to put the name. I think we have to wait a couple of weeks, unfortunately. And we have a big supplier, really big supplier. We have, here is easy. Sorry, missed something. Okay, so we have the legal person identity provider that in Italy is only one, so it's easy to understand even if I don't put the name. So it's the entity responsible to give enterprises and company papers that certify their existence. And we have an identity provider, that's it. So when a supplier, when a purchaser wants to onboard a supplier, have to put in place a specific process, identifying the company, and having to be sure that the person that is bringing the document is the person in charge of managing the company, or is acting on behalf of the person in charge of managing the company. So there are two ingredients, enterprise identity and personal identity, that are needed. That means a lot of paper, that means checks, typically it's all online, the transaction is online, the kickstart of the transaction is a complex process. And if you think about what only eIDAS can do, we can talk only about personal identity. There is no standard way to transport our data. We can digitally sign an XML or any data, but it should be easy to do, but in a proprietary way. So how can put this to a standard? Let's define what a company is. Let's it can be legal personal identity and issuer, and public on the ledger, the definition of what a company. So the schema of a verifiable credential. So we've done it. We have defined what in the space of our project, but it's rather generic, obviously. The schema is public. The identity provider identifies the person. If an already existing eIDAS credential is present, we can translate it into a verifiable claim without any human intervention or identification intervention. So we put on the distributed model what is a centralized identity that we take care of. And we can transport other data on the same standard, adding information about the company. So the person goes to the legal entity identity provider, certify that his manager is in charge of managing the company, and gets all the documents he needs in forms of verifiable credential. And then again, get to the supplier, to the customer, to get onboarded as a supplier, and provide all the documents that are needed. So this, obviously, it's easy to see that we are taking the kickstart of an identity, an eIDAS existing identity, and putting a process of transporting information in a way that is totally self-sovereign and distributed. The supplier can check that all the data are issued by the right person, and only when necessary. So not in this case, this is not a critical transaction. We'll see in the last slide in 30 seconds when a critical transaction, how it's managed. It's not a critical transaction, so there is no communication between the supplier that needs the check and any of the issuer. Like a self-sovereign world should be. In some case, this is not true. We are working. This is true. This is a model we are working on with other partners, in which, at the end of the process, think that it's rather similar. A person get identified at the beginning, have verified credentials, collect from a utility verifiable claims that say that he paid correctly a set of bills, so have a certain economical capacity, and go to a provider of personal loan, bringing with him all this information, can get all this information from his he is an employee, from his company, and so on. At the end, we have a critical transaction in terms of liability. So the user is signing a contract to get money. At the moment, we haven't found banks that say, okay, for me it's good if I check a zero knowledge proof about the identity and then I give you the money. I don't know if you found any, but we, as a trust service provider, trust the entire process, mathematically trust the end-to-end information can be certified, because we can reuse our identification and issue a one-shot certificate to sign a contract that is legally valid in Europe. So we are liable for this, obviously. This is the difference. By law, we are liable, and we guarantee that the user experience, the transport of the data in a totally self-sovereign way is valid to emit the certificate and to close a transaction that is defined by the law. So this is what we are trying to do. We think we have value in this, because we can put a layer of trust that is important at the moment, because we can use this kind of technologies in compliance critical process today, and can be useful also in the future. If you forget about eIDAS, you always need at the moment to have a source of trust in terms of identification, and we are not expecting that all states and public administration would be ready to do this in a short time. That's it. Thank you.